Hola, clase. ¿Qué pasa? Today we're going to look at number and gender of nouns, and we'll throw in a side order of articles and adjectives. Take a deep breath and be nice and tranquilos, calm. We need to be tranquilos because you know what? Nouns are bossy. Are you ready? Vámonos! In Spanish, nouns have to have gender. They have to be masculine or they have to be feminine. Gender makes sense for us when we're talking about people or animals like my neighbor's dog who's barking outside the window because we have actual biological gender. But in Spanish, everything has to be masculine or feminine. My computer, a chocolate bar, an airplane, a table, all these things have to be masculine or feminine. There's nothing about a table or an airplane or a chocolate bar that makes it look particularly male or female. It's actually kind of arbitrary. But we do have some things to help us out. Very often, the ending of a word helps us out in Spanish with determining gender. Words that end in O almost always are masculine. Here's an exception for you. Programa. The word problema, problem, works that way too. Some of the words that end in MA actually are masculine even though they don't end in an O. And here's another one that we learn usually at the beginning of Spanish. Dia, the word for day. That's masculine too. But usually, if it ends in an O, it's masculine. And usually, if it ends in an A, it's feminine. You know, we saw these exceptions up here. But usually if it ends in an A, it's feminine. Also, words that end in TAD and DAD are feminine. And here's a hint for you. Those words, TAD and DAD, very often when you move those into English, it's a word that ends in TY. Also, words that end in SION or CION. Those are also feminine. But what do you do if the word doesn't help you out by looking really obvious by ending in O or A or TAD, DAD or SION and CON? Then what do we do? Words that don't end in O or A, DAD or CION or SION or TAD, we have to just memorize those. So how do you find out in the first place in order to memorize them? Look in your book or in a dictionary and it will give you little words to help you out, or it'll put F or fem or am or mask in parentheses to let you know. Making nouns plural is pretty easy in Spanish and it's pretty much like English. If the word ends in a vowel, add S. If the word ends in a consonant, add ES. And if there's an accent right there, right before you added the ES, make it go away. There are a couple of other very rare exceptions to making plurals, and we don't usually learn those at all in the first couple of years of Spanish. So making plurals, pretty easy. Here we have 4 noun cases: masculine singular, feminine singular, masculine plural, feminine plural. And this is where you're happy that you're not studying Swahili because they have 16 noun cases. That's a lot of endings to learn. So, since we have 4 noun cases, when it comes to adding articles, we need 4 of those too. But let's backtrack a little bit. What's an article? Definite article in English is just the, and indefinite is a, an, or some. Spanish has equivalents for these, and guess what? 4 noun cases, 4 of each of these guys. So in English, when we have the, in Spanish we have 4 of them. El means the, la means the, los means the, and las, they all mean the. The nouns, like I said, are bossy, and they're in charge. Islas says, I want to be feminine and plural, and so the word the in Spanish has to be feminine and plural and go along with it. It agrees with it. It says, okay, fine, feminine, plural, whatever. Un, una mean a or an. Unos and unas mean some. And again, what's in charge here is the noun. The noun is bossy. This noun says, I am masculine, and so the word a says, okay, fine. I'm masculine too. You're singular. I'm singular. Let's up the ante. Let's make it harder. Let's throw in an adjective. And you know what? Nouns are not only in charge of articles, they're also in charge of adjectives. Adjectives are descriptive words. In Spanish, they usually go after the noun, not like English, where it goes before. And nouns get to boss around adjectives too. So you have most adjectives have 4 forms, 4 noun cases: masculine singular, feminine singular, masculine plural, feminine plural. We do have some, though, that only have 2 forms. They usually end in an E or an L or the word ista or hasta. And you only have to worry about singular or plural, but guess who decides whether it's going to be singular or plural? The noun. Nouns are extremely bossy. I've added one more thing to the mix now, a verb in the middle, so that we can practice making sentences from beginning to end. Verbs in Spanish don't have to worry about masculine or feminine. Some other languages do. But we do have to worry about whether it's going to be is, like my family is crazy, or are, like my students are smart. So what I'd like us to do now is to practice making sentences with these elements, and remember who's in charge. The nouns. If you pick something feminine and singular from this list, like avenida or playa, which one do you pick from this column? You pick la. And would you say the beach is or the beach are? In English, you would say the beach is. So in Spanish, you would have to pick something equivalent. So, la playa es. What would you like the beach to be? Would you like it to be famous? Then, famosa. La playa es famosa. Let's try another one. Let's talk about a town. Pueblo. Which one of these guys goes with pueblo? El pueblo. Would you say the town is or are in English? You'd say is, so es. What would you like our town to be? Is it big? Let's pick grande. Remember, that's a 2-form adjective, ends in an E, so we don't have to make any changes. El pueblo es grande. How about the problem? Let's have a big problem. El problema es or son? Es grande. Let's have a nice, quiet plaza. Plaza's feminine, so we'll start over here. Which do we pick? La plaza Is or are? Es. What do we have to do to the end of tranquilo? Tranquila. La plaza es tranquila. Let's make something plural now. How about instead of one city, let's have more than one. So ciudades is plural. Is it masculine or feminine? Here's a hint. It ends in DAD. Las ciudades. The cities is or the cities are? Son. Let's make them nice and modern. Moder. What do we have to do to the end of moderno? Ciudades is feminine and plural, so this has to agree. It says, okay, fine, I'll be feminine and I'll be plural too. Las ciudades son modernas. You can practice making your own sentences. Just remember who's in charge. It's those bossy nouns. Okay? Nos vemos en la próxima. Adiós, clase.